My stepdad stood in front of a judge and, with a disgusting mix of fake grief and very real greed, admitted he was just waiting for my sick mom to die to get her half of the house. He said it like he was admitting to being late for a train. He really, truly believed he'd won, that his ghoulish little waiting game had finally paid off. He should have checked the paperwork. He should have realized my mother and I spent her last months preparing for him, not just for her death. He thought he was the predator, circling what he thought was his prize. He was wrong. He wasn't the hunter, he was the prey, and he'd just stumbled into a trap we'd set for him months ago. His greed wasn't just going to leave him empty-handed. It was going to leave him homeless, broke, and completely ruined. This isn't just a story about loss. It's a story about how a dying mother's love and her daughter's quiet anger rewrote the final chapter, making sure the villain of our story got exactly what he deserved. Nothing. Before the illness, before the hushed whispers about money, we looked like a family. My mom, a woman who could light up a room just by being in it, married my stepdad, let's call him Leo, about 5 years after my dad died. I was happy for her at first. The silence in our house after Dad was gone had been awful, and Leo filled it with noise. He was charming, always had a joke ready, always making some grand gesture. He'd bring Mom flowers for no reason, plan little weekend trips, and talk about their future with this starry-eyed look that seemed so genuine at the time. The house was a modest 3-bedroom place my parents had bought together years ago. It was more than a house. It was a museum of my childhood. Every scuff on the floorboards, every pencil mark on the doorframe tracking my height, it was all a memory. After I flamed out of my first try at college and felt a little lost, my mom and Leo offered me the basement apartment. It was a kind offer, a chance to get back on my feet, and I was grateful. I paid a little rent, chipped in for bills, and things felt stable. Leo played the part of the caring stepfather perfectly. He'd ask about my classes when I went back to school part-time, offered to look at my car if it made a weird noise, and always made a point of saying, "You know, you're like a daughter to me." Looking back, his charm was an act, a carefully built illusion to make us trust him. The first cracks in that illusion were tiny, the kind you'd miss if you weren't looking. A comment here and there about how much property values were going up. An offhand story about a buddy of his who inherited a fortune. He'd bring it up casually, but the theme was always the same. Someone dying and someone else getting rich. My mom, ever the optimist, would just brush it off. "Oh, Leo," she'd say with a wave, always thinking about money. Then she got the diagnosis, stage 3, ovarian cancer. Those words just shattered our world. In the first few weeks, Leo was the perfect doting husband. He held my mom's hand, brought her water, and sat with her through all the confusing appointments. He was our rock, or so it seemed. He pulled me aside once, his face a perfect mask of concern, and said, "Don't you worry, we're going to take care of your mom. We're a team." But as the sickness really set in, something in him shifted. The mask started to slip. The real Leo didn't show up all at once. It was a slow reveal, a series of small, cruel moments that peeled back his disguise. It started with my mom's treatments. Her doctor had a clear plan, surgery, then chemo, but Leo questioned all of it. "Are we sure this doctor knows what he's doing?" He'd ask me when Mom couldn't hear. "I was reading online about this alternative therapy in Mexico. It's a lot cheaper." He wasn't worried about her health. He was worried about the cost. Her life had a price tag, and he was looking for a coupon. The real turning point was at a pre-op appointment. The surgeon was explaining the procedure, and Leo just cut him off, launching into a rant about the risks and the long recovery. He wasn't asking questions, he was building roadblocks. I saw the doctor's notes later. He'd written, "Husband appears abusive and controlling, actively discouraging patient from life-saving treatment." My mom, weak from the disease and worn down by Leo's constant negativity, started to doubt everything. She was scared, and he was feeding that fear, using it to control her. He was trying to kill her will to fight, not with a weapon, but with whispers. One night around that time, my mom called me downstairs. She looked so small, swallowed up by the big armchair in the living room. "I need to talk to you about the house," she whispered. She told me that when she married Leo, she had him sign a prenup, but later on, in a gesture of love, She put his name on the deed as a joint tenant. He said it would make him feel like this was really his home, too, she confessed, her eyes filled with a pain that was deeper than the cancer. I think I made a terrible mistake. That was the night we started planning. It was her idea, born from a mother's instinct to protect her kid. He's waiting for me to die, she said, the words just hanging there in the cold air. He thinks he'll get my half of everything, kick you out, and sell this place. I won't let him. This is your home. The next day, I called an estate lawyer, a woman named Ms. Albright, who had the kind of sharp, no-nonsense eyes that told you she'd seen every type of human greed there is. I laid out the whole situation, the joint tenancy, Leo's behavior, my mom's fears. Ms. Albright explained that joint tenancy meant Leo would automatically get mom's half of the house when she died. It trumped any will. Our only option was to sever that joint tenancy before she passed away. So, our quiet little rebellion began. While Leo thought he was managing a sick wife, my mother was fighting her biggest battle, not just against the cancer, but against the man sleeping next to her. Ms. Albright drew up a new deed, changing the ownership from joint tenants with right of survivorship to tenants in common. That simple legal phrase was our silver bullet. As tenants in common, my mom's 50% wouldn't go to Leo anymore. It would go to whoever she named in her will. A few days later, a notary came to the house. I made sure it was during Leo's weekly golf game, something he never missed, not even when Mom was at her sickest. I helped her from her bed to the kitchen table. Her hand shook as she signed the new deed. Her signature was frail, but it was defiant. Then, she signed her new will, leaving her entire 50% share of the house and everything else she owned to me. We had the documents officially recorded with the county the very next morning. The trap was set. Now, we just had to wait for the wolf to walk into it. He had no clue that, legally, he'd already lost. Section 3. The Villain's Monologue. My mother passed away on a cold morning in late fall. The house fell into a new kind of silence, a heavy one that felt like it would never leave. Leo's performance as the grieving husband was, I'll admit, impressive. He cried at the funeral, accepted condolences with a pained look, and talked about the wonderful woman he'd lost. It was a disgusting show. He wasn't mourning his wife. He was mourning the delay in his payday. The act dropped the week after the funeral. He called me into the living room, the same room where my mom had sworn to protect me. He was holding a folder and had this smug, businesslike air about him. "We need to discuss the estate," he said, his tone flat. "Your mother and I were joint owners of this house. With her passing, her share automatically transfers to me. The house is now mine." He said it with such arrogance. "Of course," he added, waving his hand like he was the king of the world. "I won't throw you out on the street. I'll give you 30 days to find a new place." I just stared at him. My blood felt like ice. But I wasn't shocked. I was strangely calm. This was it. This was the man my mother knew he was. "This is my home," I said, my voice perfectly steady. "I'm not going anywhere." He laughed, a short, ugly bark of a laugh. "You don't get how this works," he said, tapping the folder. "The law is the law. Joint tenancy. It's mine. You're just a tenant in my house, and I'm evicting you." That's when I told him I had a lawyer. His smug look flickered for a second, replaced by annoyance, but the arrogance came right back. "Get any lawyer you want," he sneered. "They'll tell you the same thing. You don't have a leg to stand on." So, we went to court. Leo filed to have me kicked out. He stood up in front of the judge, putting on a show of a frustrated, grieving husband. He talked about how much he loved my mother and how he just wanted to move on in the home they'd shared. Then his lawyer asked him why he felt he should get the whole house. Leo looked the judge right in the eye. "Your Honor," he started, his voice thick with fake emotion. "I loved my wife. I took care of her. I stayed by her side through her whole illness. I was just waiting for her to die so I could inherit her half of the house, as is my right. It's what we agreed to." You could hear people gasp in the courtroom. Even his own lawyer looked like he'd been slapped. He'd said the quiet part out loud. In his incredible arrogance, he had just confessed to everything my mother was afraid of. He delivered his villain monologue thinking he was untouchable, that his greed was his right. He thought he was closing the case. He was actually opening the door to his own ruin. My lawyer, Ms. Albright, stood up. She was holding one slim file. She didn't look angry or excited. She looked like an exterminator about to deal with a cockroach. "Your Honor," she said, her voice cutting through the stunned courtroom, "we'd like to thank the petitioner for his honesty. It certainly clarifies his motives. However, his understanding of the property's legal status is out of date." She handed a document to the clerk. "This is a certified copy of a new deed for the property, filed with the county on October 12th of last year," she announced. On that date, my client's mother severed the joint tenancy, converting the ownership to tenants in common. The right of survivorship that Mr. Leo is counting on no longer exists. People started murmuring. Leo just stared at Ms. Albright, his face a mask of confusion. He looked at his lawyer, who was now sweating and frantically shuffling his own papers. "What is she talking about?" Leo hissed, loud enough for us to hear in the front row. Ms. Albright wasn't done. "And on top of that, Your Honor, we have the deceased's last will and testament, also signed on October 12th. She submitted the second document. In this will, she leaves her 50% interest in the property as a tenant in common to her daughter, my client." The judge looked over the papers, his face impossible to read. Then he looked up at Leo. "Sir," the judge said, his voice dripping with ice, "it seems you are not the sole owner of this house. You are a 50% co-owner, with the other 50% belonging to the woman you're trying to evict." The color drained from Leo's face. The smug man from moments before just deflated. He started stammering, looking from his lawyer to the judge. "That's impossible! It's fraud! She was sick. She didn't know what she was doing." "She knew exactly what she was doing, Leo," I said, speaking up for the first time. My voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. "She was protecting her daughter from you. She knew you were just waiting for her to die." The judge slammed his gavel. "The petition for eviction is dismissed," he declared, "and I'd advise you, sir, to find somewhere else to live. You are now co-owners of a property, and I imagine your co-owner has every right to force a sale. Given your testimony here today, I suspect she'll do that immediately. You are not the victim here. You built this mess yourself." The fallout was fast. I did exactly what the judge suggested. Ms. Albright filed a partition action, a legal move to force the sale of the house. Buried in legal fees, Leo had two choices: buy me out or let the house be sold. He had no money to buy me out. His whole plan was based on getting the house for free. The house sold in under a month. I got my 50%, a nest egg my mother had fought for with her last act. Leo got his 50%, but by the time he paid his lawyers and taxes, there was almost nothing left. Last I heard, he was renting a room in some town an hour away. His grand inheritance turned to dust. He thought his cruelty was a secret. He thought his greed was protected by the law. He learned the hard way that you should never underestimate a mother's love. My mom spent her last days making sure my future was safe, and in doing so, she delivered justice so perfect it was poetic. What would you have done if you were me? Have you ever had to fight a greedy family member for what was yours? Let me know in the comments. And if you love a good story about justice, please like this video and subscribe. I still live in the same town, just not in that house. I used the money to buy a small condo that's all mine. It's quiet and peaceful. Sometimes I think about Leo. I don't feel angry anymore. I just feel a kind of pity for a man so eaten up by greed that he couldn't see the train wreck he was causing for himself. He was so focused on the prize he thought he'd get at the end of my mother's life that he never stopped to think that she was smarter than him, stronger than him, and that her love for me was way more powerful than his love for money. He waited for my mom to die to steal everything. He just didn't know she had already made sure he'd end up with nothing. She got the last laugh. And it's a laugh I still hear every single day.